there was some announcements this week in terms of expansion passes that I thought was an interesting talking point because of fan reaction to it and just the way video games are headed, you know, and Nintendo's direction with DLC, as we've seen with, you know, Breath of the Wild having DLC, which is a strange thing for Nintendo, like to have that type of stuff. So if you're unfamiliar, those listening and or watching, Game Freak announced via a Pokemon-centric Nintendo Direct on January 9th that they would be releasing an expansion pack consisting of 2 separate expansions releasing in 2020 at a price of $30. So there's the Sword expansion pass and the Shield expansion pass, and in each of those are the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra. Now the first, Isle of Armor, will release in June 2020, and the other, Crown Tundra, will land in fall 2020. So they're spread out pretty nicely, one in the middle of the year, one towards the end. Both will feature expansive areas and the controllable camera featured in the wild area. We had talked about this before, Dom, that people had always wanted to be able to control the camera with the right stick, and you haven't really been able to do that with Pokemon. But in the wild area in the new Pokemon games, you were able to do that for the first time, right? Well, in both of these new expansions, the entire area that in the DLC, you use the camera. Which leads me to what I had told you guys before, that I think this was testing ground for possibly the next mainline game, or maybe even the remix, or whatever they plan to do, that it'll be in the entire game, right? That it'll just be a part of the game as a feature. So they will also add over 200 Pokemon that weren't already available in the Galar region. Now this is regular Pokemon from previous generations. This is Galar forms, so new forms of older Pokemon. They didn't specifically say it, but I'd assume there'd also be some other new Pokemon, right, that we haven't seen before. And also, you know, this kind of helps the whole national dex fiasco that happened on Twitter with people being mad that the whole Pokédex wasn't in the game and that they're reusing models, so why don't they take the time, yada yada yada. Anyways, so I'm going to explain to you specifically what both of these expansion passes involve specifically. So the Isle Armor, which is the first one, it's an island off the coast of the Galar region, and there's a new legendary Pokemon called Cubfu, who's essentially a martial arts bear type of Pokemon, right? And it's just like a little baby bear Pokemon. It's cute, whatever. It evolves into this thing called Urshifu, which is it's also like a martial arts inspired kind of bear type of looking Pokemon. For me personally, in my taste, Dom, this is one of like the coolest, most badass looking Pokemon I've ever seen. It's just, I don't know, I just love the aesthetic of it. It has 2 different forms it comes in, so when you evolve the little bear thing, you can choose which one it evolves into, right? One of them is more multiple strike focus, and the other one's more of like a one-hitter quitter, right? Like big, powerful blows. And you can kind of choose which one you want. Anyways, the Isle of Armor is like a dojo adventure-based experience where you find this dojo, you have a master who is a former Pokemon champion, and you kind of work your way up the ranks in the dojo with this little fighting bear Pokemon at your side among your other Pokemon team, right? So that's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. They showed off some other stuff in it, but that's pretty much the focus, is this kind of dojo environment, very much inspired by like feudal Japan, right? Which is really odd when you compare it to the UK kind of aesthetic of the Galar region. The second one, the Crown Tundra, is essentially that. It's a tundra, but it's more, its baseline is colder environments, because you can get snow and stuff in the regular wild area, but this seems like its default is snow and ice, right? And they showed off a lot of puzzles in it, and they also showed off Dynamax battles, which are like the multiplayer raids, but they take place in caves in this one against legendary Pokemon from past games. And they also, you remember the legendary birds from Kanto? Zapdos, Articuno, Moltres? Remember those guys, Dom? The yellow, red, and blue birds?
Yes. Okay. I was thinking of Ho-Oh and...
Oh, no.
Ho-Oh,
yeah,
Ho-Oh.
Ho-Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ho-ho-ho.
I knew that. Yeah.
They teased Galar variants of them. 2 of them look kind of dumb. The Articuno one looks really cool, so they're obviously new looks at older Pokemon and different typing. The weirdest thing is, the last thing they showed was a new legendary, looks like a rodent or a mammal of some kind that floats in the air. It has these balls around its neck that kind of look like a giant pearl necklace, but they have Triforces on them. I'm not kidding you. They have like Legend of Zelda Triforces on them.
All right.
And
okay. Just tone it down with Triforces. This is Pokemon. Let's not get excited about.
Well, no, I'm not getting excited. I'm just saying it's weird. The legendary Pokemon's called Calyrex. Yeah, it's also green and gold colored. That's why it's like so weird that it has like Triforces on it or whatever. I've never been a huge legendary Pokemon guy. I'm not that type of person because it's like it ruins the world for me, an immersion of like, well, if there's only one of them in existence, how come somebody can trade them? And then like, why? Yeah, it's a whole thing. I've just never been a huge legendary guy. The reason I want to talk about it though, last thing, Pokemon Home is coming in February 2020, which is like the bank service where you can save your Pokemon. This will be the way where people can get their Pokemon from the 3DS to the Switch now, which is really cool for people who care about that stuff.
Ooh, question though. So people were initially upset that in Sword and Shield you couldn't get all of the legacy Pokemon, right? Like they didn't exist in that game. So does Pokemon Home allow for? I mean, how does that work? Can you get like?
So I'll explain to you. You can.
Okay.
So I have a pretty huge Pokédex. I haven't fully completed it, but I have a lot of the Pokemon. Right, like out of the 900 Rever, I think I have like close to 700, maybe. I think I'm being a little generous there. Maybe like 650 or 600. Anyways, I can transfer any and all Pokemon I have in Pokebank, which is Pokemon Home, but for 3DS, right? Different name. I can transfer all of those to Pokemon Home, but I can only transfer whatever Pokemon are available in Sword and Shield to Sword and Shield.
Okay,
so when I go to transfer, they'll kind of be like a blanked out. You know what I mean? Like blurred or something, so I can't actually click on them.
Right. So they would have had to actually make that asset in the game.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter if you have it in your bank or not. Gotcha.
But with the expansion pass, they are adding more 200 more Pokemon. So there will be a wider range of characters you can bring over. And Poke Home makes it so it's easier to complete the national decks and stuff because you already have all of these guys, right? One of the pains with a new Pokemon game is like, you shouldn't have to go out and catch Pokemon you've already caught. That doesn't make any sense, right? So Pokemon Home and these type of systems allow you to be like, when I finish with the game and I'm working on completing the Pokédex, I can transfer in all of the Pokemon I've already caught and I can just work on all the new ones, right? It makes it more fun and less tedious for people who are trying to complete the Pokédex because then you're only searching for the new Pokemon that you can explore and evolve and figure all that stuff out, and you're not worrying about, oh, I have to catch another Mudkip or another, Magikarp, and then I have to evolve it to level 20 to Gyarados, and it makes it just a pain. It makes it not worth it. Some can say the whole grind of getting the national decks completed is not worth it. Anyways, the reason I want to talk to you about this, I know you're not a huge Pokemon guy, is that in previous generations, we've had one or two things with Pokemon. So, it was either a third version of the game that would come out that would change up the narrative and add some new things to the game. Obviously, we had, with Red and Blue, we had Yellow, which also introduced Pokemon that followed you. And you got Pikachu instead of one of the original 3 starters, yada, yada, yada. You could say that for Crystal or Platinum for other generations.
Crystal, man, that was the last one I played fully, and that was an awesome game.
Or Emerald, right? Then with Black and White, we literally got full-on sequels. Black and White, we got Black and White 2, which is its own thing individually. Then with Sun and Moon, we got Ultra Sun and Moon, which were the same games but with bonus content. All of these games costed the same MSRP as the original versions of the games, right? So Ultra Sun and Moon were both $60, just like the originals. Whatever the prices of Red and Blue or Yellow was the same price. Sapphire and Ruby, Emerald was the same price, yada, yada, yada. So with this is something entirely new where it's an expansion pass that's adding into the game already. And it's a two-part thing. So one, it's $30 and you're getting all of this stuff and you don't have to buy another game, right? So it's half the price, but you're still getting all of that content. People are complaining that why are they charging $30 for DLC, which is hilarious to me because it's like, yeah, they're charging $30 instead of $60. You know what I mean? Normally they'd have you pay twice the price and play the game again to get the bonus content. You understand what I'm saying? And with this, they're just like, no, it's added on content after you beat the game for half the price, right? So that whole argument blows my mind. I'm like, you're actually saving money this way. I don't understand why you think they're nickel and diming you. You were kind of getting nickel and dimed before.
Sounds like the better model. I actually had one question. So there's 2 DLC packs. If you have either of the either Sword or Shield, can you buy both DLC packs?
No, so you have to buy the one specific to your game. So I'll give you an example.
Gotcha.
Say you own Shield, I own Sword, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I buy the Sword expansion pass, you buy the Shield expansion pass. Obviously, we can't buy each other's. And ours are slightly different, just like the base games, which I actually like because it means that you're also getting another reward for picking the side you chose instead of both of us getting the same DLC. There's an argument for the other side. I'm not saying I'm right in that, but I like it because of that. For the dojo thing, right, that I explained with the little bear cub, your main rival in it would be a different trainer than my main rival. Different character completely, which I like. Because I think it helps separate the games even more, right? It's even more of a reason why they're different than one another.
Why
and
you
not
need
just
both. Or
exactly.
Want both. Yeah.
Or it just makes you feel prouder for the version you picked, right? It's kind of like that fanboy stance of like, oh no, Shield's better because of this or this. So I'm for this model for Pokemon moving forward with DLC. I would much rather pay $30 for 2 pieces of content. My only gripe would be, I wish you could buy one. I wish you could buy Isle of Armor without having to buy the second one. I understand why they wouldn't let you buy the second one and not the first one. That doesn't make any sense. But I wish that they would let you buy the first one for half price, see if you like it, and then whether or not you want to take a chance with the second one, right? I don't like necessarily having to buy the whole expansion pass at once. I kind of like letting consumers choose, but I get it. And yeah, I don't want to play through another game again. So Emerald or Yellow, they had some really cool, I mean Yellow especially because it was much like the anime, right, and less like the actual video games in terms of its story.
You had to start over, the same thing. Exactly,
you had to play through the same game. I love this because it adds on to it and it makes me want to actually play the bonus content. You know, a lot of times I didn't buy that third version because I already played the base game and the bonus content wasn't enough to have me go on and buy another game. Exactly. This actually, I think, is smarter because you have a higher chance of people buying your DLC. I think you have a higher chance of people paying $30 for a game they already loved than $60 for a brand new retail game, right? That's my assumption. That's what I would think from a marketing standpoint is it's easier to sell this to people for half the price and they don't have to do anything but just download it, right?
Yeah.
And the cool thing too is the day they announced this, the 2 characters we'd have differently at the dojo, they were in an update. They came to a location in the Galar region. You can go and talk to them, and you can actually have a chance to catch a new Pokemon from the expansions, which is a Galar version of Slowpoke, the pink idiot, like pig dog looking thing. I like that stuff because it already gets you excited for the DLC because the DLC is already affecting the game you're in, right? I thought that was a really nice touch to have that character be in there the day they announced it. I like this format moving forward for Pokemon. I hope they stick with it. I'm glad that you're kind of receptive in the same way of like, yeah, this makes way better sense.
I mean, this is you know, much closer to like how most other modern DLC functions, right?
Exactly.
What this all reminds me of, especially after you reminded me of like how the old how they used to do with Pokemon games is what they're doing with Persona 5 Royal, whatever they're calling it. And I might be wrong, but from what I understand, that's a brand new game. Well, rather, it's a new SKU. So you can't buy just the add-on content. You have to buy this new game that is 80%, you know, the same game you already played. And this is giant ass game. So you would have to play through the whole thing again to access the majority of the extra content. And like, and that's another $60 game. I'm like, that's bonkers. Why not just sell a $30 chunk of DLC that just you could go right in? And no one seems to care that much about it. And I'm like, that's wild. Why would anyone be into this?
It's like they're selling a Game of the Year edition before even releasing the DLC. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And so normally the Game of the Year editions have all the DLC packed in, right? Or you could buy it separately. This is like, we're releasing DLC in the Game of the Year edition, essentially the Royal edition, but we're not releasing it separately.
So it's more akin to what Pokemon used to do. It's the same color, whereas Pokemon at least gave you a new color, crystal.
And, this is the good parts of casualizing the franchise that I like, right? Not forcing these players to go and play through another 30 to 40 hour game to get to the bonus content. They're like, no, we know your time is valuable in the modern age. $30, you can jump into it. It's after the game, or not after the game, because you can probably jump into it whenever you buy the DLC. But yeah, the malice and hatred, I think, still stems from the whole National Dex thing, and it's a thing that we see on the internet where people just want to be mad, right? Rise of Skywalker, I had my issues with it, but there's people who went into that movie wanting to hate it no matter what, and they came out hating it because that's just what they wanted to do. And I think with this, people are going into this direct being like, unless they announce that all of the Pokemon are getting added back to Sword and Shield, I'm going to be pissed off. Let me find a reason to be mad, you know? And that's just how it is.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, though, like, that's all it is it's just people being, you know, loud and not kind, I guess. But people who are that passionate, and this is just me trying to put a positive spin on you know, this conversation that they're having. People that are that passionate about it, that they're that mad, are probably going to buy it anyway and probably have a great time. I hope.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, you're making me spend less money. I hate you.
You know, they'll probably be happy with the product even if they don't voice it.
Exactly.
Later.
Be angry now, but enjoy it later. Yeah. I'm just happy for this because the other small thing, like we talked about, the camera thing is huge because I really hope that that's an added feature. It's not going to be a selling point, right, for the next Pokemon game, but for diehards or even people, maybe not you specifically, but people who are teetering on the edge of maybe picking up a Pokemon game, they're like, oh, they finally have a controllable camera. I'm down to even just mess around with it and have a good time, right? Who knows? I just think it's a really cool small feature that they're working towards implementing into the franchise as a whole.